You're a fool.
Welcome, everybody, to the Racing Foolz podcast, powered by Low Budget TV. I'm your host, Charlie Seungtai, and joining me is Tommy Mason.
Hey, everybody.
So it's been a couple weeks since we were able to record something. We've been pretty busy last couple weeks. I've been in Vegas for SEMA, as well as Optima's Ultimate Streetcar Invitational. What about you, Tommy? Where have you been? I know you've been doing a little bit of King of the Wing. What else have you been up to?
Yeah, man. So we came off of a pretty busy last couple of weekends. Orange Show Speedway for the West Coast Figure 8 Championship. That was incredible. 300 laps of outlaw figure 8 racing. So busy there, recording and streaming all that. And then, after that really long night, obviously 3.5 hours alone in just that 300 lap figure 8 race. This past weekend, we were out for two events back to back. Saturday afternoon and evening, it was Kern and Bakersfield. We broadcasted the King of the Wing sprint car race on the pavement track, and then so that started at 5 o'clock and ended around 7:15. Well, then we transitioned, and so did everybody in the grandstands, and all the staff transitioned to the dirt track that's on property for a full night of racing over on the dirt track with more sprint cars and open wheel racing. And we tried something that we've never done before, and that was transition a broadcast too. So we literally packed up, and within 20 minutes went from the roof of the pavement track basically across the parking lot to the dirt track, set up, and was live for the remainder of the night. And so anybody who purchased the race earlier in the day, the King of the Wing pavement race, they were able to watch the dirt race, basically giving them plenty of racing action all night, along with the fans that were at Kern. And then we packed up, drove home from Bakersfield, and drove to Irwindale Speedway the following day. And that was an afternoon race for King of the Wing at Irwindale, and a quick turnaround for not only the teams but us and everybody else involved with King of the Wing. And we went live at 2 o'clock. So it was little sleep, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, I guess if you were lucky enough to catch the Kern show on Saturday on lowbudget.tv, you got a double feature.
Yeah, you did.
And
Same
then
price.
actually 3 races in a weekend. I mean, you guys are basically like the streaming version of World of Outlaws, just one track to another
For one weekend. I don't know how those guys, Dirt Vision and those guys, can keep up. They have to have more crews because we obviously don't have the money for a crew. So if that was us, yeah, we would be killing our vehicles on mileage and ourselves on sleep. So props to those guys, because yeah, that World of Outlaws is like 500 and something races a year. And my math might be a little off, but I feel like it's pretty close how they race literally so much. And to broadcast those races, props, because I was worn out Sunday night after the 3-day weekend. But yeah, those guys are incredible.
I could definitely relate to being worn out after spending a whole week in Vegas for SEMA show and Optima's Ultimate Streetcar Invitational. I was lucky enough to catch some of you guys' show on the Facebook Live sneak peek on Saturday. Didn't have much time to relax, but when I did, I was definitely watching that and commenting with you and Jeffrey.
Yeah, no,
So
we
that was
asked
fun.
Thanksgiving questions, getting ready for Thanksgiving soon. But so my question for you is SEMA. Obviously, that's a huge event in Las Vegas at the convention center. And then you pack up from SEMA, the show, and you're working this entire time. People obviously joke, oh, you're in Vegas on vacation. No, not at the least. Because
Nope.
I remember you left late in the night to
On
get
Monday,
to Vegas.
yeah, after a whole day of work.
Yeah. So you left after work to get to Vegas, and then literally Tuesday on through Sunday, Monday, like you're constantly working. So you got the SEMA show that you're working in because the competitors and sponsors and everything affiliated with the show are in the SEMA show.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? You guys all pack up and go to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway?
Pretty much. I mean, it's funny when even as quickly as Thursday, you already start seeing attendees of the SEMA show with their roller bags ready to get out of Dodge. And
Really?
And like obviously the show ends on Friday, and I'm like, man, everybody on Friday is rushing to the airport, and we're just loading up to go to the Speedway, and we still have 2 more days. Well, I was seeing like people at home on Friday evening, and I'm like, man, I still got 2 more days here. But it was fun. I mean, it's always a cool event to cover. A lot of nice street cars. If you're unfamiliar with Optima, search for the Ultimate Street Car. It's a show that airs on MAV every Friday night, and they travel all over the country to many of the country's best tracks, from Daytona to Road America to NOLA Motorsports Park. I mean, they go all over the country, and some of the finest street machines you'll ever find to ever actually go on a racetrack compete in this. But a lot of these cars are also, SEMA quality builds, and if you get invited to the Invitational, which is the finale, you get to display your car at SEMA, and it's very big for the competitors. It's very big for their supporters and their sponsors. Luckily, we have our TV show has a lot of great sponsors. Obviously, Lucas Oil is one of them, and you have Falcon Tires and Power Stop Brakes, Recaro Seats. I mean, so we have a lot of good sponsors of the series, and they also support the competitors as well. So it's a good event, but it's nice to be back. I mean, as you're on the road more than I am, Tommy, so you're on the road more than most people that are listening, so you kind of know what it's like to be able to enjoy some time back home.
No, it is nice. Those Sundays are what I look forward to. Jeffrey and I, we kind of joked about it, how like we love racing. Racing's our passion. Racing is the entire reason why we do it. And those Sundays, like working on a Sunday, okay, it's fun. We're at the racetrack, but normal Sundays, man, that's like when you can unwind and just watch. You can just watch the race, whatever race you're gonna watch on Sundays. And but don't get me wrong, it was exciting the whole way through because we don't get that opportunity. It's fun. But I don't feel like I envy those people who are on the road, or maybe the Midwest where they race like Thursday through Sunday, sometimes even Monday and Tuesday.
3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah, it's fun. I love it. Sometimes too much of a good thing is still too much.
I mean, maybe if we didn't have real jobs, might be different.
But you'd need a motorhome too, to really do it decent. Because, okay, so you just drive home and you relax in your car. Like,
yeah.
You kind of want something comfy to sit in other than a car seat. So.
Well, I am used to.
Well, yeah.
I'm used to being.
There's plenty of times where I've cheaped out and slept in my car instead of getting a hotel room. One of the most recent trips was Santa Maria.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because I'm near the coast, just kind of crack the window and beautiful weather. So just go into the parking lot and fall asleep and, hey, look, the sun's up.
Mm-hmm.
And you save $100 on a hotel room.
Yep, which could go to many other things besides just a bed to sleep in for 6 hours.
Right.
So we do have a weekend off. Well, actually, you don't have a weekend off. You're going to be busy this weekend.
Yeah, no,
so.
I'll be gone. So picked up another gig just a few days ago, but looking forward to it. But I guess it's crazy to think that this side gig has turned into a year-round thing.
Yeah.
And promoters out west are noticing that it's almost easier to flip the schedule around. And the reason being is because it's so hot in the summertime and it's so hard to get competitors, and
sometimes people don't want to be racing at that time.
People want to be at the beach and grilling in their backyards and sucking up AC. So what they figured out, and we all knew this as spectators because we're the ones in the off season like, well, damn.
Wish there was racing.
Wish there was something to do on a Saturday. It's
That's why we love the winter heat, right?
Right. Yeah, the winter heat was so popular. And I've noticed that the trend lately is starting to be where tracks are taking the summer off entirely, or just at least, racing once a month, sometimes maybe only twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
And they take those summer months and spread the schedule out farther. But in the wintertime, the beauty of being out west is the temperature and the weather is very consistent. and there's more winter racing. So now we have started entering the fall/winter racing season. And going to Havasu, their season just started last week.
Yeah, and I guess, do you want to talk more about the gig you're doing this weekend?
So doing the Bandolero Western Nationals. There's probably a more specific wording to that I'll need to learn before going into this weekend. But pretty cool, where they offer all the Bandolero drivers in the West, literally from, you split America in half, and they compete for a national title in Lake Havasu's Havasu 95 Speedway. So looking forward to that, seeing the future stars, and you never know what you'll see, because Joey Logano and so many other drivers have come from
Bandoleros, yeah, very big. And you never know. I mean, low budget TV. I mean, this is not a low budget TV gig, but you're used to seeing a lot of drivers before they make it.
Yeah.
I mean, even this weekend, I got to meet Cole Custer at SEMA show, and I said, hey, low budget TV is this low, and he still remembers you guys, so that's awesome. So
yeah, we take big pride into that, because it also shows our age and how long we've been doing it. But it's also cool to know that Cole and those drivers,
Gregson,
all these drivers, are now into their point of their career where they are at just about the peak of their professional level. But we also look back to like Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, those guys. Jeffrey and I weren't doing low budget TV necessarily, but we were at the racetracks watching them win in the late models and progressing up the ranks. So pretty cool, you know, to think that.
So you are working this weekend. I am not. Was debating whether maybe going to Pomona for the NHRA finals, but I think I'm probably going to just relax this weekend, catch Homestead NASCAR finale live on Sunday. But at some point, me, you, a few others of us, perhaps Shayla as well, if she wants to tag along, we are probably going to check out that new movie that you may have heard of, Ford versus Ferrari.
Blue versus red. Yeah,
America versus Italy. Now, this is a couple of days before the movie's coming out, so we haven't seen it yet. It hasn't come out yet. But
to further you, I guess I'll mention this briefly. I'm not really a moviegoer. It's not that I don't like movies, but I always feel like I just don't have the time for them. I don't know.
Well, strange. I don't usually either.
I know,
but,
right?
This is a racing movie.
Yeah, when it's racing movies, okay, we'll find time. But I haven't even seen the trailer.
Oh.
I know what.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know what the movie is technically about. Right? But I haven't seen The Art of Racing in the Rain.
Well, that's not really a racing movie. That's
and
I
didn't even see the trailer. But all I know is that the promotion pieces had, road racing in it. And so I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's a road race movie. And then I hear the reviews about how it's heart-wrenching. And I'm thinking, it's a road racing movie. Of course it's heart-wrenching. Like, you're going to have, it's an endurance.
Yeah.
But then I found out there's a dog involved. And
it's not Meatball.
No, not Meatball. So, yeah, I haven't even seen the trailer, but go ahead.
Well, just the fact that there's a big budget racing movie and a fairly serious racing movie with a lot of big names in it, even though, I know most of the people listening to this probably are more of the circle track crowd, but how cool is it to you that at least racing is getting some attention again?
I feel like, based off of the few things that I've seen, this is kind of like the next level rush, right? Of as far as budget and big picture and everything else. I love racing movies because it's obviously what I can relate to and my passion and everything else. So I think it's great anytime there's a racing movie. I mean, there's hundreds of horror movies and they're all the same thing about scaring you. So why not, racing movies? I feel like maybe that's becoming the trend, thankfully, because of like you've got the Fast and Furious and people are, in my opinion, intrigued about racing, but they just don't necessarily, the whole world doesn't care enough about racing like I believe they should. And I'm happy to see the movies have racing interests.
And this is actually a true story too.
Right.
Because this is probably the only movie I'm ever going to watch in my life that I actually read the book
Oh,
before
really?
watching the movie. Yeah.
Okay.
In 2009, I broke my ankle, so I had a lot of free time, and I read a lot of books, mainly racing books. And Go Like Hell, the story of the 24 Hours Le Mans Ford versus Ferrari, that was one of the books I read. And I'm not gonna spoil. If you already, it's no secret really what happens. Like you could easily go on Wikipedia and find out who won those races and the history about the GT40, but it's still a good story, and I do want to see, how they portray this story and all the people involved. We will talk about maybe our concerns in a little bit, but I will just say, without spoiling it, it's a fantastic story, and the two things that I really am glad that why this movie was made is, one, I think it's going to give maybe Southern California a little bit more credit in the racing world than they get, because I feel like SoCal is a very overlooked area. When you think of racing, you think of Indy, Indianapolis, you think of Daytona, you think of Charlotte. Lots of times California kind of gets overlooked, which I think is a shame, because we've really had everything. Like every single motorized racing vehicle you could think of, we've had it.
I feel like we own the car culture.
Yeah, the hot rod culture. I mean, technically Carroll Shelby, who made the GT40s, and that's the thing too. Like Ford's name is on the car, but if it wasn't for these hot rodders from Santa Monica, Ford probably would not have succeeded.
Yeah, definitely.
And you think about, like, obviously, Saugus Speedway is near and dear to yours and Jeffrey's heart.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of lost racetracks from Saugus, Mesa Marin, Riverside Raceway, Ontario Motor Speedway. So and all
there used to be so many racetracks back in the early
50s, 60s,
50s, 40s, 60s, you name the era.
Even the board tracks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so many racetracks, and that's because of the car culture.
Ascot.
We raced inside. There used to be racing inside the Coliseum. They raced at Whiteman Airport.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
They did?
Yeah. News to you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I mean, all these, they just found racetracks. If there wasn't a real racetrack there,
they made one.
They just said, "Hey, $5 admission and bring it on."
It was
Pull
the
up
thing
your
to
chairs
do.
and watch these boys race.
So that's one reason I'm glad this movie's being made. But the other reason is because the central driver in this story, Ken Miles, is finally going to get national recognition that he should have got before, and maybe to a certain extent did get, but due to circumstances that I will not list because you need to watch the movie, he kind of got hosed. And so at least even though he ultimately did not get what he should have got, at least now he will be immortalized in a movie and portrayed by, I forget the guy who's playing him, but it's somebody famous. We both don't really watch movies, but somebody famous, and he's in a very important character. So luckily, the name Ken Miles will now be recognized beyond people who just read the book Go Like Hell. So the one thing, like I said, we haven't watched the movie yet, but do you have any concerns? Because sometimes when racing movies are made, it could be on the unrealistic side.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's always that concern, but the older I've gotten, the less I care, I should say, because you kind of need, you can't have, if every movie had the 100% absolute
real,
truth before a good story, you're going to lose interest, and you're going to have people you're going to lose people's attention because they can't stay, like you and I, we can watch a documentary, we could watch a movie that has 100% accuracy, and all of us racing people listening can follow along at the same pace. We
don't need contrived, dramatized.
We need movie reviewers, we need everybody else who just don't follow racing that hardcore as we all do, to be able to still relate and understand and be put into a place to consider it. So yeah, I'm always concerned that Days of Thunder, he shifts to fifth gear, at 200 miles an hour,
or how like their cars at Daytona look like they came from Bristol.
Correct. So but at the same point, like, that to me gets overlooked easily.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing about Days of Thunder is it's just such a quotable movie.
Yeah, no, there's that. I mean, I love the movie.
Yeah.
But I'm giving reference to like
Yeah.
what I mean by it. It can't always be completely hardcore.
Yeah.
As much as we all appreciate it.
Well, at least they use real cars, though, because one
Right.
thing that's concerning to me of modern race movies is just the overuse of CG to the point where
Yeah.
it's like, that's a little bit much. I mean, even the trailer for Ford versus Ferrari, there are a few things I saw. I mean, aside the fact that they use Fontana
Yeah.
as a road course and, had to kind of fudge because, unfortunately, Riverside doesn't exist anymore. But, the other concern I had, though, and this is sort of my rant. So, if you don't like me talking bad about Ford, then maybe you should close your ears. But
I drive a Ford, but I enjoy your talking.
So, as much as the story is good, the one thing, so the movie hasn't been premiered here yet, but mark my words, one thing that's going to annoy the hell out of me is I am 99.999% sure they are going to reference Ford's 2016 return to Le Mans and the 2016 Le Mans race that was practically rigged for them.
Gotcha.
Now, people, if you follow road racing, sports car racing, you already know what happened with the BOP. If you don't know, the BOP is called Balance of Performance. It is a system that the sanctioning body uses to, quote-unquote, balance the cars so they're all, quote-unquote, equal. Well, that year, the cars were not equal.
Gotcha.
Because on the test day 2 weeks before...
They got a bigger plate. They got a bigger restriction.
Yeah,
plate, is what
well,
you're saying.
on the test day, all the cars were within half a second, which is great. I mean, how do you have usually, all the brands, Ford was...
Parity is perfect.
Yeah, or at least very close.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden, the ACO decides we're going to add weight and restrict the horsepower of the Corvette, Porsche, and Aston Martin, and conveniently, the Ford and Ferrari are untouched, and come race weekend, the Ford is 2 seconds a lap faster because they need to have their Ford versus Ferrari battle 50 years later.
Oh, it was on an anniversary.
It was 50 years later. So
see, this is stuff, folks, that Charlie, I could talk stock car racing all day long, but I lose it because I'm not a road racing person per se. I enjoy it. I just don't follow it. And this is, if you're like me, this is where you and I can relate. And if you're like Charlie, you can just laugh at me.
Yeah.
and the people that can relate with me. But see, I didn't know that.
Well, I mean, it was Ford's grand return, and it was a big deal. And even though they had the speed edge, they still had to finish the race. Which they had a hard time. They didn't finish Daytona. They didn't finish Sebring. So they still had to finish the race, and they did. But when you're 2 seconds a lot faster, it's you could back it down.
Right.
So they I don't want to say they won the race. They got the trophy handed to them that day. And unfortunately for me, the horror of 2016 is going to be relived, I'm sure, at the end of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at least in the 60s, when this car came out, they actually won legitimately.
Right.
So, and if you didn't know that, then I'm sorry if I spoiled that for you. But that wasn't exactly a secret. So
You're gonna spoil the Titanic movie for me too.
yeah. So I don't want to do that. Yeah. I'll refrain from talking about the boat. So
Right. Yeah.
But hopefully we'll be able to check that movie out next week when it comes out. I mean, it's been getting great reviews.
Good.
Sometimes that doesn't mean anything, but I like to think this time that it's actually with merit.
Do you know if Rush or any other movies similar to this had good reviews, or do you think people are still like, oh, it's a racing movie, no one cares?
I feel like Rush did get good reviews, but I don't...
Is that just because Opie was writing it?
It could be. Well, I don't know.
Everybody
It was a
loves
really good movie.
Ron Howard is a great director.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know, and maybe it's just the crowd that I hang out with, but I still know more people that love Days of Thunder more. And I like Days of Thunder too. Like I said, it's just a more quotable movie.
Right.
But as far as a cinematic, masterpiece, I mean, Rush probably is...
That wins all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wins all. Senna probably has the best documentary.
Yeah.
Days of Thunder is the most quotable.
Mm-hmm. But I still
And-
think, I still gave Days of Thunder a lot of credit because they still used all the real cars. They didn't have CG.
Oh, I know, yeah.
So
I mean, you had a team that raced that was a big major influencer into the movie. Oh, and built a ton of chassis for the movie. So everything was to the T as far as car-wise.
And the thing about Days of Thunder, too, that maybe the other movies not so much did was, I think there's got to be some correlation between when 90s NASCAR exploded with the help of Days of Thunder.
You have to. You have to correlate that because that was, in the 90s, the release.
And it's quite possible, too, that Days of Thunder had a huge effect on brand loyalty because I had a coworker once here, shout out to Ryan Troutwine, if you're listening, from Montana.
Used to race legend cars.
Yeah, used to race legend cars,
Yep.
and I think still races bombers in Montana. He told me once that because of Russ Wheeler, he did not like Hardee's. So, if you sponsor a car in a movie, you might want to be careful if you sponsor the bad guy,
Right.
because you might be losing some business.
Gotcha. Okay, well then. Interesting.
Yeah.
So that means Superflow had the cheapest actual bill to pay. They
Well-
were the cheapest sponsor because there was only one race.
Well, was it? Oh yeah, the pink. Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
also he crashed too. So maybe you don't want to use.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't want to use Superflow.
Just keep using Exxon.
So-
Well, no, yeah, I don't know if you want to use Exxon. Just
Rowdy crashed. They were in the same crash.
just
Like,
keep drinking Mellow Yellow.
Yeah, just drink Mellow
Drink
Yellow,
Mellow Yellow and
and get
you'll
your
be a
used
winner.
cars at City Chevrolet,
Right. Yeah.
and you'll be fine. Actually, it's funny because when I was a kid, I used to think because of Days of Thunder that if we filled up our gas tank at Exxon, our car would run better.
Of course. yes.
Unfortunately,
Uh-huh.
there was no Exxon in
No,
California.
not out this way.
Actually,
yeah.
there wasn't a Hardee's either.
Nope.
So
There wasn't even Mellow Yellow.
yeah, I hardly saw it. Actually, I think I was probably a Kyle Petty fan because of the Mellow Yellow car.
Oh,
in
yeah.
Days of Thunder. It's like, oh, Days of Thunder, and it's
Mhm.
like, but it was just with a different number.
Right.
So, and he didn't really win as much. Well, he was great at Rockingham. I don't
Yeah.
know what was up with Kyle Petty and Rockingham, but he had that place dialed.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Kyle Ham. Didn't turn into Markingham.
good times, good times.
I am interested to see this movie. I'm not sure how many more notes you have, but I think that any movie that involves racing is good. And what I am going into this movie, which is fun for me, is that I don't know too much about the story. So I will be much like anybody else who watches this movie that doesn't know the history of road racing.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch, but also learn.
that's great. I mean,
I'm
I
looking
think
forward to it that way.
that's what I like about these sort of biopics or movies that are based on a true story. Which that's why I'm curious to see how people are portrayed in that. But you always do wonder, like, how did it go down? Obviously, it's a dramatized version, but it should be good. I have high hopes for this movie. Most racing movies, as long as it's not like Driven or Torque
Yeah.
or Biker Boys, I'm cool with it. So, and I did unfortunately watch all those three too.
Right.
So,
I've only seen one of those three.
which one? Driven? Yeah.
Yep. Picking up quarters.
Yeah, and then driving 150 miles per hour through city streets
Right.
under 18-wheelers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That I don't know. Cart really thought that was gonna help them win the war, but
What
it didn't.
what I took away from Driven was how cool it was that Bruce Flanders was not only the announcer for Cart, but they actually used him in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my takeaway. That's all I cared. about.
Bruce is a legend, so
That was like once I heard Bruce's voice in the movie,
can't be all bad.
I just said, well, I'll continue watching then.
Yeah. So hopefully Bruce is doing good. Bruce and Mike Flanders too. We know Mike very well from the Lucas Oil Modified series.
Yeah.
So,
Bunch of chicken.
yeah. If you
Maybe I'll see him this weekend because I believe
is that his home track?
that's his home track, and I
Oh.
believe he announces there.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well,
Thanks for the reminder.
yeah. If you see him, you could tell him, hey, we gave you a shout out on the
Right.
Racing Foolz podcast. And then he'll say, what the hell's that?
Should I tell him that I said bunch of chicken in a broadcast that was cut out?
You could let him know.
I'll let him know that he was there in spirit.
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know. Whenever I think of mods, I think of that, because that and parade laps with American flags.
Yes.
So
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Lots of little American flags. So. Well, that's all we have for this week. Not really sure yet when we're gonna record again.
Probably we got to talk about championship weekend.
Yeah.
We'll probably have to debrief about that at some point.
So for you folks listening, who are probably
there's so much stuff we have in the can.
Yeah.
You and I were talking about something. Even Jeffrey and I were talking about stuff about how your goal, one of them, for this podcast is not only to chat racing and meet and interview people, but also to talk about some of the wacky stories that we have.
It's just gold.
And Jeffrey and I were just going off like just a quick chat about it, about how, we've got this story, that story, this story, that story.
I mean, we'll have hundreds of podcasts just
off of
stories.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, your alarm's going off. That means it's time to go, huh?
Yeah, I think it is. For you folks wondering, so this is unofficially the third podcast, but we technically haven't done one yet because
we're still in the testing phase. We actually are trying something new that we haven't tried before.
Yeah, our original mixer that I got for free for some reason stopped working. Maybe because it was free.
Maybe.
So we had to borrow this one. Thanks, Ray. Even though Ray doesn't know that we borrowed it. Yeah. And so our first official podcast, we'll have a guest who insisted that he would be on the podcast if he was the first podcast.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, he's not here until December 2nd. He's out of the country calling races.
But that gives us more time to practice, but Phil.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is like unofficially
these are all
podcast 3.
We just have a lot of pilot episodes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're going to get it right eventually. I mean, at some point we'll get to a point where we actually plug stuff in and it works the first time.
Flip the switch and it's gone. Yeah.
So... But like I said, if you've been listening to the first, if this is your first one, welcome. If this isn't, thanks for actually sticking with us and listening to more of these. We will be getting these onto the normal podcast platforms eventually, but YouTube is free and we like free.
Free is free.
We will also eventually be getting Jeffrey on here. We haven't yet been able to experiment getting him on a phone call yet. Yeah. So that's one of our to-do test podcasts that we're eventually going to have. So for you folks who are avid fans of Low Budget TV and are wondering where the hell Jeffrey is and who the hell is this guy that's talking right now, don't worry. Jeffrey will be here eventually. We're still just trying to figure things out.
We're trying to get our stuff situated and we're sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
But now we have to pipe in someone who's, 70
miles away. Yeah. So
we'll get there. We'll have to just run a long cable.
And as always, if you would like to have your company plugged on here for a very affordable price, we can do that too. So just hit up Tommy.
Mm-hmm. Bring it on.
Yeah. So
we'll talk about you.
Yeah. We have no problem shilling anything. I mean, we will sell out for anything.
Anything.
Yeah. So, well, thanks again for hanging in there with us, and we'll see you next time when we talk more racing on the Racing Foolz podcast. The Racing Foolz podcast is produced by TQ Media House in association with Low Budget TV. Special thanks goes out to Tommy and Jeffrey from Low Budget TV, Kelly McGuire for the free mic and mixer, and Ramon Ariola for helping create various show elements. Music is provided by RFM, royalty-free music in the YouTube audio library. If you like what you hear, give Low Budget TV a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what you think. We welcome all questions, comments, and ideas, and who knows, maybe your idea will be the next topic on the Racing Foolz podcast.